Hello everyone, welcome back again. I apologize for my absence. I have been a little AFK from a lot of projects, especially this last week. I got pulled onto a project that requires me starting work at 6 a.m. and I am not a morning person, so I have been consuming extra Mountain Dew and lots of coffee in order to stay going through the day. So I'm a little unprepared, a little tired, probably going to cut things off a little short tonight. Just a heads up. So stream probably won't go quite as long as it usually does. I've not forgotten about posting the recording of last week's stream to YouTube. That is still forthcoming. There was a couple things I wanted to actually clean up and fix about it before I actually got it posted. So it is not forgotten. I know normally things drop the following Monday. And it's kind of intentional that it didn't come out this week, but rest assured the recording will go there. You can still find the recording back on Twitch. I forget how long they stay up there, 30 days, something like that. So it'll be up on YouTube long before those things time out. For tonight, I wanted to go back to my project that I was working on last week about the sort of trying to build something that's kind of full stack enterprise like ish out on GitHub, because I found a lot of tutorials and they all seem fairly small and targeted, and rarely is there a complete end-to-end solution that you can fork and plug in and start running out on your own subscription. So I want to try and get a little closer there. So if we recall, let me flip over here. This guy, this one, this is what we were playing with before. So I've got an org called TunaWaffle. For those people unfamiliar with it, I get made fun of a lot because I enjoy actually making and eating tuna waffles. You can feel free to leave me your comments on your feelings of that idea. But for those people who've had like a tuna melt sandwich or a tuna salad sandwich, it's basically that. Subtract the bread, replace it with waffle. Some people think that sounds absolutely disgusting. I love the little sweetness that the waffle brings over the bread. Mwah. Mwah. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm weird, and this only further proves my point. So I've got this Kate's demo here. And bundled inside of this is a bunch of stuff. I've got an infrastructure project that has some terraform. Right now the terraform stands up, let's see, container registry. It stands up a couple AKS instances or AKS clusters, and then SQL Server is going to be where we head next, because I'd like to show setting this up and going managed identity from the cluster into the SQL Server to be able to retrieve that data back and forth, because managed identity is awesome. For those people unfamiliar with it, let's see. Azure managed identity. Yeah, spelling counts. Managed identities for Azure resources. These guys. So if anybody's interested in checking them out, you can almost conceptually think of them as accounts that almost like service accounts, but service accounts you don't necessarily need to manage. So there's an automatic password cycle built in, and so you get this, I guess, better user account management. And as the name implies, it's managed for you. Managed meaning Azure manages it. You don't have to manage it, which is great. So leveraging that in there, and then I've got a ton of GitHub Actions set up. So I've got code QL scanning turned on. I've got several infrastructure projects in here, and then I've also got this toppings API is my attempt at being humorous. It's a poor attempt, but it's an attempt nonetheless. I tried to be funny. I'm not that good at it. Excuse me. Food has been a luxury today. I have not had enough time to eat. But this is a basic, it's very close to file new project on ASP.NET Core at this point. There's not a lot in here. There is a tiny unit test project. There is a tiny health check that I added. As you can see, this health check is not overly helpful, but it does register up a health check so that there is something there to be able to go through and look at. It initially was going to be set up with identity stuff, but that was going to require a lot more Azure stuff, and I just wanted to get this thing rolling and out the door initially. There's a very simplistic Docker file, not a lot here. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. But right now, here, let's just go to the controller. The default file new project has this weather controller that is just being backed by an in-memory array, which is fine. That works. I would like to make this slightly more advanced. Add another controller here that's actually related to the TunaWaffle theme that I'm clearly embracing. And maybe store a list of toppings in a database table. Just something to show that we can query the database, pull stuff out. We may get fancy with like maybe a Redis cache or something cool. Maybe get fancy with an admin screen on a web UI if I get really creative. I want to try and keep it small, but have it try to cover as many use cases as what people are likely to run into. So things like securing it, the admin pages with auth and that kind of thing, so that there's enough enough there so somebody can see a way to do it, because in some of these cases there are a lot of options. And then I still have fine. I will just, you know what? This dependabot alert has been sitting here for a while. Oh, and this is currently failing due to my other build stuff, isn't it? Yeah. How old is this build? Failed 5 days ago. We could probably just bump this thing up too. Yeah. Part of why this is failing is I have a GitHub action here whose sole purpose in life is to tear down my infrastructure. Because I don't have unlimited Azure credits, and as much fun as footing a large Azure bill for the sake of making a TunaWaffle joke is awesome, I don't feel like doing that. So I've got this pipeline here. It's got a workflow dispatch on it. I kick it off. It uses Terraform, pulls down all my infrastructure, and then I'm not wasting money. And then before I run, I just stand it back up. I'm thinking I might combine, for the sake of simplicity, I might combine these two together. So if you check out the previous video, you'll see there was a bit of discussion I had in there around service principals and accounts, and in this type of setup where you've got your actions managing both infrastructure and app deployment, you probably, so I've only got a dev and a prod environment. Obviously a lot of people will have a lot more than that, but in this situation I think you need, or I think my recommendation is 6 service principals, simply because you've got at minimum 3 different cases. I could see an argument for 4 service principals, but there's likely a separate one for your infrastructure versus your app, because the service principal permissions for, say, your Terraform is going to need to be significantly more permissive than what an app would need to deploy. And then obviously, so 1 for app, 1 for infrastructure, and then those 2 at least multiplied over for the prod environment as well. And the third one is you can technically get away with a service principal that has even fewer permissions, but effectively read access to a lot of resources for doing the Terraform plan. Because on these, for example, we'll just pick on this one here. If I look at like one of the last successful ones, you'll see that I've got 2 steps set up here. One that does the Terraform plan, where Terraform shows what it's going to do. And then I've got a Terraform apply with an approval gate on it, because with Terraform, you really want to be reviewing those plans before they go out the door to make sure that that Terraform is actually going to do what you think it's going to do. So, for what it's worth, I think you don't necessarily need the second service principal for your plan versus your apply, but if you are working with a very, we'll say, tight security type setup, because this one is on a CD trigger, and this one's not. This one's behind an approval gate. This one, the one on the apply, actually needs like permission to create stuff, whereas the one on the plan really just needs read access in most cases, and so you can get a much smaller permission set up. Okay, so where are we going next? So, for my actions, I've got a bunch of stuff in here, and then I've also got these actions here, and I wanted to separate them out a little bit, but I apparently broke a bunch of stuff. So get ACR info, this is a known bug that I need to fix. So part of the issue is when I stand up a container registry, the container registry has, let's see if I can clean that up a little bit. The container registry has, sorry, it's just bothering me, that little bit of my green screen that is. I usually fix that up with lighting, but apparently not today. Whatever, I'm gonna ignore it. The container registry has to have a name that's globally unique, which means if somebody were to fork this repo and run it, whatever name comes out from their terraform for the ACR would immediately conflict with mine. So in an effort to make this project forkable and easily runnable without people needing to go and change a bunch of names, what I did is I automatically generated a name for the ACR. So it just uses the terraform random pet. So it basically just picks an animal name and throws it out there. I learned the other day that a dog bird is a real thing. I was very confused why I got two names for a little bit until I figured that one out. So I learned something new. For reference, dog bird. This is a thing. No, the opposite of catfish. That is no. Anyway, so yeah. So that's the only reason for this thing here, but because this thing is trying to look up the ACR, it's going to fail. Now, admittedly, we're going to clean this up in a couple ways. So we'll start with the easiest. Okay, so pro tip. The period key. When you are on a code screen in GitHub, it drops you into VS Code in a browser with the repo open, which is awesome. Now, this isn't full VS Code. You don't get like your compute bound resources behind the scenes, so you don't get like a lot of the extensions and whatnot that would require running. So it's not quite the same as if you were to pull it down. But I have been working and doing a bunch of GitHub Actions this week, and nearly all of the work has been done using VS Code in the browser. This feature is awesome. Like, the fact that you don't need to install anything, you just need a web browser to get going, is great. If you want the full like extensions, compute bound stuff, GitHub Workspaces is your solution there. But for now, I don't have that set up, so we're going here. I also don't know if I have any credits remaining for that, so yeah, we'll have to look into it. Okay, so first of all, we're going to come in here. And so the one that was breaking is the get ACR info. But I thought there was a limitation on this. Did I not filter this at all? That was dumb of me. Yeah, so there's some cleanup that needs to happen in here. So we're just going to clean this up. So inside of this, what it ends up being is if, and actually let me go and look up GitHub, nope, Cortana, hands off. Let's see, GitHub Actions contacts, boom. So this guy here, and I'm looking for the GitHub context. So in GitHub Actions, your context is, you can almost think of it like a variable source. It's a place where you can get information about stuff. But in this case, what I am interested in is the event. I believe it's either event or event name. Event is an object, event name. Yeah, I think we just want to go with event name is probably the simplest here. And then we will, yeah, let's do that. So GitHub event name, boom. So over here, if GitHub event name equals, or I guess not equals, yeah, we're gonna let it go. Hey, I appreciate the follow. Linameric, I apologize. I probably just butchered that absolutely completely. Welcome to the stream. We are having fun with GitHub Actions, or at least that's the goal tonight. And right now we're cleaning up some stupid actions that I wrote. So we're gonna say if this thing is not a pull request. So on a pull request, we don't actually want to go out and log into the ACR. And if we don't get the ACR, we don't want to do that. We don't want to build the image. I mean, normally it would be helpful to go through and build the Docker image to make sure there's no errors there. But in my case, the Docker image is it's really thin. The number of things that are going to go wrong on a Docker build on this are pretty small. Really small. So I'm not going to stress about that. I mean, because one solution is you'd separate these out from combining both the build and the push into a single step and make them each their own individual steps, kind of like the Helm stuff. We're going to do this guy here. And then, you know what? We're going to change this up a little bit. Let's move this Helm stuff up here because we can package this guy up still. And actually, rather than save, let's call that package Helm chart. And then once again, if it's a pull request, we aren't going to do, boom. If it's a pull request, we won't do any of that stuff. And then I think down here, we're going to do the same thing. Oh, I had the if in that. So if a pull request, we won't deploy out to dev. And at some point, what we're going to do is we are going to have deploy prod. But, and that's where I wanted to get to tonight, I want to clean this up a little bit because there's some reuse that can happen here. And I'm trying to decide between, so I've got some composite actions that I've set up inside of the repo already, and I'm halfway tempted to push them into another repo. You can do either, just to be clear. And I'm trying to decide between the simplicity of keeping everything in this repo, and if it's valuable to show samples of them being in another repo. Because typically, if this was not my little demo org here, right? Because Tuna Waffles, and I know this should shock no one, this is not a real organization. I need to put a README on here. But this is not. I don't have a pinned repo. Boom. Now I got a pinned repo. There we go. This is not a real one. This is legitimately just me having fun and putting together samples because one, it's a good learning experience. Two, people like samples. They like to see examples of how to do things. And so I try to keep the examples small, but there's a balance there between too small, where it doesn't show enough things that are close to real world, versus being too big and where it's hard to derive what you actually need to do. That's the trade-off we're doing right now. Yeah, but I think in our case, I kind of want to separate some of these out. So that should fix that issue there. So, and also, if it's not clear, I have 0 branch policies set up on this thing. we're going straight into main. PRs? Nah. The PR trigger thing is only a problem. I wonder if we should. Let's look. I wonder if we should clean this up even further, such that if it doesn't find an ACR, it terminates. I actually don't mind it erring, but I'm wondering if maybe I should make it err with something friendlier. I mean, I guess that's pretty reasonable, as it's saying it couldn't find the resource group. That's pretty explicit. That's because my infrastructure isn't stood up. I'd have to run the other ones. We'll leave it as is. Okay, so cleaning up running steps on PR. So we'll just commit that. Sync, and so that's gonna fail again. So I expect this thing to run again. As you can see, my code QL kicked off again, and there is, and let's take a look at that. So on my code QL, you will note there's some building stuff down here for compiling it, and I think I want to break some of this up. I think I want to break some of this up. So, but I'm also interested in why these ones failed here. So let's start with this, because cannot find. Okay, so this is worth pointing out. So, because this was a change I made earlier. So which one did I open? Dev or prod? Prod. Let's look at the prod one. And then this is specifically, does it have, well, it's not giving me a line number, but it is the terraform plan, and I can kind of guess based on what I changed last what the problem is. So here's my two jobs: terraform plan, terraform apply. You'll note they're pretty thin. There's not a lot here, and that's because it is using a composite action. Composite action is stored in a local file here. And you'll note that it is set up to look underneath GitHub Actions, and then you point it at the directory, and inside the directory it needs to find an action.yaml file, and then this guy here contains all of the steps to do the work. So this does the AZ login, the HashiCorp action for setting up Terraform, does the init, does the plan. Everyone's happy. At least I'm happy. It's my workflow. I have to be happy. Okay, so let's come in here. And it is failing to find that path there. So I kind of want to just put you... Actually, you know what? Leave it there, because the place we want to compare it to is going to be up here. Because... Oh, interesting. Hang on. We got to set up job and straight into Terraform plan. What happened to the... What happened to the checkout? Oh, that's the problem. So in order for it to find this, it needs to be able to check out the repository, but I put the checkout inside of it, so I've got a chicken and the egg problem. And I don't think having a TF plan to a checkout really makes that much sense. So I think the solution here is going to be just to extract that and move it outside, because as nice as it is to have an individual item doing the checkout for me, I don't think it's intuitive. If I were to reuse this composite action elsewhere, there's a very real chance that the checkout would already be done, and so I don't want that there. Okay, so let's do, and I'm going to assume that I did the exact same thing in the apply. Yeah, I did. So let's clean that up. Boom, boom. And so we go here. We're going to slap that in there. Slap that in there. We'll do the same thing on the dev side. You'll note one of the other ones I'm heavily leveraging is this get ACR. I just wrapped up the steps for doing the AZ login and then doing the queries to pull out things like the login server, the name, and the ID of my ACR. Just so that I don't have to think. And again, the only reason for having this much complexity in here is because I am generating a random name every time my Terraform puts out a new version of the container registry. Boom. So we'll do that. And then Terraform apply. You already are there on dev, prod, checkout. Okay, so that should be fine. And then we strip both of those out. Excellent. Just check the diff real quick. And again, I just like to point out, I haven't left my browser yet. This is pretty powerful. It's pretty cool. The cool thing to note is the only thing that's happening when you press that period key on a GitHub repo, and you do need to be on the code view. It doesn't work from every view, but like the main view of the repo and the code in different places. What's actually happening is it's just switching from github.com to github.dev. So, for example, I was on my phone and I wanted to make some changes here, and I realized, oh, it's really hard to hit the period key and trigger the key press action on the mobile browser. But I can open up the URL and just change .com to .dev, and poof, I got into the mobile version of it, and not a great editing experience. A phone screen is really tiny. It's hard to see a lot. But it works. It works. Check out repo before attempting to access composite actions. Boom. Okay, so I would expect, let's see. Boom, so that should kick off and run. Okay, perfect. So, one, this didn't immediately blow up and fail like it did last time, so that's a plus in the right direction. Now, the question, though, is should I be moving these into a different repository? That really is the question. Should it be in a different repository? Okay, and then the question is, are we going to stand some of this stuff up? Yeah, you know, maybe we'll do a little EF Core stuff. I put it in the title of the stream, might as well. Oh, Terraform plan here is looking for the ACR and is not finding it. Who would have thunk? This is part of why I want to... I'm disturbed by your repo name. Thank you, Kenny. So, just to be clear, for anybody who missed the starting here. So, the repo name I don't think is what's disturbing you. Kate's demo should not be disturbing. The org name, however, there is small cause for concern there. Small cause for concern. Because yes, I did acquire the org name of TunaWaffle. And yes, I did go to the effort... Here, do I have zoom it? I did go to the effort of getting a logo. My wife was very happily willing to oblige me when I told her that I had acquired the org of TunaWaffle and I was going to go looking for a picture. She's like, I'll just draw one. I'm like, go for it. I was like, you will come up with something better than anything else. So I've even got a logo. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Not great, but it's pretty good. But at least this thing here is it's in and working. Okay, so let's actually do some stuff with this. So these two ones dying makes sense because I'm guessing they both fail on ACR check or scanning for the ACR. Yeah, get ACR info, fails. Your commitment to the joke is what sells it. I know. It's great. It really is great. Which is why the toppings API, darn it, needs a database. For reasons that I'm sure will make sense by the time I'm done building it. Or I will make something up. Okay, so let's actually stand up some infrastructure here. So we're going to go here. We can look at the Terraform plan real quick if we care to review it. So for people unfamiliar with the Terraform plan, I start at the bottom because this little summary is what I find to be most useful. 4 resources to add, 0 change, 0 to destroy. In other words, nothing's there yet. I'm going to make a bunch of stuff. So it's going to do a role assignment. And this is just here because I wanted to have a group that could get in and manage this stuff for any of my colleagues that are crazy enough to help me on this. Emphasis on crazy enough. But for my prod environment, it really just contains the container registry. Now, every org is different. They might have more than one container registry, maybe one servicing their like dev environment and something else supplying their Helm charts and images to upper environments, you know, QA, stage, prod, etc. And so that's all this is doing. And this here, this little random pet, this is the reason for all this crazy ACR lookup stuff. I've been questioning if this is the best way to handle this problem. Because otherwise I risk failure if somebody forks this repo and runs it while I have my infrastructure torn down and then I have to change my name. It just doesn't seem fair. So, random it will be. Okay, so that looks good. Oh, no, we go here. Review deployments. Approve. So prod info will go out. And then as soon as this thing gets the ACR stood up, we will go through and get that built. Because I would like to get... What I would like to do is get the database up and get the managed identity with access to it, such that I can then connect from my cluster in and EF Core all the things. At least that's the game plan. So let's take a look at doing that. And at some point, I really need to finish out doing this and setting it up. But so, for example, for my I'll just call this out real quick. So for my Terraform stuff, I've got an environments folder or an env folder, and then dev and prod. Okay. In each of these has the important stuff. The key thing, if we look at dev, most of the code. Wait, are you going to install the Terraform? Oh, buddy. Oh, I'm about to be very, very happy. Huh. So I'm going to get Terraform support. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I'm really happy. Okay. So when I said you couldn't get extensions, what I meant was you can only get some extensions. Anything that requires compute-bound resources is not going to work. But apparently, this thing does not need any compute-bound resources. So, anyway, for the dev environment, it basically just has one module. The providers don't do anything other than specify versions and connection info to get back to the state file. And then just a couple incoming variables. For example, the ID of the container registry. I know, what a shock. But then all of the interesting stuff happens in the environments module. So if we come down here, this is where we now have more stuff. So I've got AKS related stuff in here. It sets up role assignments for the cluster. If we come down here, I've got a SQL server. This guy is going to spin up, oh, this is just a reference to the AD group. It's going to spin me up a SQL server. connect up some managed identities, and I don't recall where I ended on this. This may just straight up fail. So as you can see, my SQL admin password is just random. My admin username, I really have commitments to random pets for Tuna Waffles because reasons. And so those ones are being passed in here. So the prod environment, though, you'll note I've got the environment module commented out because right now I'm just wanting to work with a single AKS instance. So that's where I'm deploying. What I really should do is turn off dev and only powwow and prod, but no, I'm doing this the hard way. Okay, so that guy stood up a bunch of infrastructure. Huzzah. Now I need the dev side of things. Workflow dispatch, fire in the hole. Okay, so that will... So the prod one should have given me my container registry. Is feeding your pets tuna waffles some form of cruelty or a treat? Ooh. I think it depends on what the random animal it generates is. Because I don't doubt that tuna waffles are probably toxic to some mammals or animals in general. And there are some particular colleagues that would argue that they would be toxic to them. So, spoiler alert, where I work, they occasionally do waffle days, and I always volunteer to bring the tuna. No one else ever does. It's very weird. And only, I think about... So 2 of us like it, and maybe 3 if I can con somebody else into helping eat it. There's been a few people I've conned into at least trying it, and most of the time they go, "Yeah, not for me," which I think is a polite way of saying, "Ah." I'm pretty sure that's what that means. So, a smart person would review their terraform plans. I'm just gonna run it, or at least I'm gonna start it, and then I'm gonna go back and look at the plan. Okay, so let's go to the bottom again. 10 to add. So now we'll take a quick look at what all it's going to add. Well, tuna is the chicken of the sea. I love it. Oh, I love it, rollers. I'm gonna crank down my mic just a little bit. I'm seeing it cap out on me. Boom. Okay, so first resource. Let's see. This is just a data source. Doesn't count. Data sources are inputs, things that Terraform is going to read, not necessarily resources that Terraform is going to manage. There's my Kubernetes cluster. I've stood this up about a bazillion times, so I'm really, really confident that all of these settings are correct, or at least for what I'm doing, they're correct. The SQL database is the one I'm not 100% sure on if I've even tested this or not, so we'll find out in a minute. So a lot of these values you'll see are marked as known after apply, known after apply, known after apply. It means these things would be available downstream of this resource. So if something else wanted to say read the server ID, they could get that off of this database. Now note, this is the database, not the server itself. That's coming. That's coming. So here's SQL Server. You'll note it. Terraform is reasonably good about sensitive values. GitHub Actions, if it knows something sensitive as well, like a secret or whatnot, it'll star it out. But just to be aware, the starring out on the terminal is not... It's the level of security that I need while streaming to make sure I don't accidentally expose my admin login password. It is not the level of security that's going to stop a malicious person. So just to be clear, what level we're talking about here. This is the stop the streamer from accidentally exposing his key, not the stop the bad man from taking your password. Okay, so it's going to spin me up there. Let's see, resource group for app. And then some role assignments. So the ACR pull is what's needed by Kubernetes on the container registry to be able to pull that back. For my Azure infrastructure, I'm spinning everything in one subscription, but everything's variabled out to where they could be in multiple subscriptions. All that matters is that the service principal that you use to run your Terraform has access to everything, As long as it does, you're good to go. So, but my service principal right now has, I think, owner rights over the subscription. So I didn't spend a lot of time, let's say, zeroing in on exactly the permission set. It was, you want to do what? Sure. And it probably could have gotten away with a lot less. Let's see. So network contributor, which is needed for standing up, I believe, the ingress controllers and being able to register the public IPs for the load balancers, if I remember correctly. The monitoring metrics publisher, I probably actually don't need, because I'm not actually publishing those metrics, but I probably should, so we're going to leave it. Random password because reasons. Random username. And then one more role assignment. This demo contributors is all about me just adding in the users who are helping me, because I have gotten a couple colleagues to volunteer to help, which is very nice of them. They are very nice people, and we like them very much, because it is nice being able to do this. I will say one of the awesome things about Terraform, because one of the first things it does with its plan is build up a dependency tree with the relationship between your resources. Is this some kind of guilt trip? Kenny, would you like to? I can add you to TunaWaffles. Your membership can be remained private if you're worried about people associating your name with the word TunaWaffle. You don't have to make it public. Unless I accidentally open up the team and show all the members in it on stream, and then it's kind of public. In case you care. I do also have a... because this wouldn't be one of my streams if I didn't show off Get Kraken at least once. So I've been managing my work on a Get Kraken board, and naturally it's called TunaWaffles because reasons. So backlog, in progress, done, which is great. I did discover something on Get Kraken boards that I didn't notice the other day. So it's got some cool things about when a person moves a card onto it, you can automatically make that person an assignment. But the one that I discovered the other day is there's actually a trigger for when a card is created. So in this case, if you try to create a card, so how about get Kenny to help, right? So if I create this card, you'll note, whoop, it jumps it right back over to the backlog. That's pretty cool. I like this. These automations are so stupid easy to do. So you just pick your column, pick your action, and then what you want it to do. And the fact that there's a celebrate is even better. So for example, my done has the celebrate set on it. Ready? Yay! I get way too much enjoyment out of that. And then I've also got a thing that just, after 3 days, archive it. Once it's been done for 3 days, who cares? It's just so easy. It's so easy. I like my Get Krakens. Card is not legally binding. Are you sure, Kenny? Are you sure? Are you sure? On the note of Terraform 2, because it has that dependency graph, it will build anything that it can do in parallel, it will. So oftentimes Terraform can get itself sometimes wrapped around the axle because it tries to go too fast, which it's kind of like when the interviewer asks you what's your biggest weakness. It's like, I'm too much of a perfectionist. That's what Terraform is doing here. What's your biggest weakness? I work too quickly. Boo-hoo. Go home, Terraform. But it looks like we are down to SQL Server creating, and I don't actually know how long this is expected to take. And then we probably need to figure out the connection from point A to point B. So let's get I'm going to actually do this on a second monitor real quick, just so I can be confident of what is about to be shown. because I have a bad habit of accidentally showing off my secrets on stream, and I'm getting really, really, really good at cycling them. I just prefer not to. And my goal is to not burn up all my Azure credits for mistakes. That would be bad. But the nice part is, it's pretty. If I needed to recreate this in a different subscription, it wouldn't be that hard. Okay, so there's that. On the note of needing to do that, so here, I'll show that off too. So under the settings for your repo, you can go through and create environments. And again, you can see I've set up the 6 environments, like what I was talking about with the service principles earlier, where the deploy ones are the ones that ideally would be scoped with read level access as a service principal behind them, whereas the infra ones would have significantly more permissions because they have to actually like create a bunch of Azure stuff. Or I'm sorry, the read only one is the staging. Deploy is for the app, and infra is for the terraform to create. And so for the infra ones, there's a approval gate on it. And actually, I think we can change this to contributors now. So let's just take, oops, that was the wrong one. We'll fix this real quick because I created a team rather than just this. One thing to note too, if you're inside of an org and your teams don't show up, oh please. So there we go. If you're inside of an org and your teams aren't showing up as a list, one of the things that you may need to do is add the team from your org to the repo. So just because you have a team at the org level, that doesn't necessarily mean it's been granted access to the repo. So you may need to do that as well. Okay, so we were coming down here. I'm just going to clean these up while I wait for that thing to go. Contributors, boom, boom, boom. But the thing to note is then down here, these are the variables for the service principal being used. So these could point to any service principal that has the appropriate access to run, say, my prod infra. So don't care about subscription, don't care about anything. So if I needed to swap this out for a different Azure account, I would just need to either give this service principal access to said subscription, or I would and then change this subscription ID or do something slightly different in here. Right? Or, you know, brand new service principal. Prod deploy, one protection rule. I wonder why prod deploy, this should not be lacking in a protection rule. That is, I think, just a mistake on my part. Let's see, prod staging. This one is fine because this is expected to be the read-only access. So the staging one should not, maybe I should rename it. But the staging one should not have any blockers on it. And then dev deploy is set up to be my CD environment. So everything in the main goes straight out to dev. And then you can scope your secrets with Terraform actions at your environment level. You can also scope secrets at a higher scope too. So you can do, right, so repository level secrets would be above the environment secrets. And then you can do organizational level secrets above that. So you can imagine if your org, say, uses a third-party payment processor that needs an API key to auth with, and you need to have that same secret shared from everybody, well, org level secret. Right? If I had something that I was intending to share across all of these pipelines, repo level secret. In this case, all of these are environment specific, but because I think every single environment has the exact same values in here, I could have done every single one of these as repo secrets. That would have been a possibility. Poof! Look at that. Okay, so, hey, where'd my Azure window go? Boom. You, there. And refresh. And I should have SQL. Booyah! We got SQL. Okay, so let's go and actually let's write some code real quick. Because, oh, I was doing docs. Stash. Come back to those later. I was trying to be a good developer and actually write documentation for how all of this is set up. Because this is meant to be an example repo, which is going to need some docs. But in our case, we are. Let's fire up Visual Studio. Come on, come on. You can do it. I believe in you, Visual Studio. I believe, I believe. Oh. I probably haven't opened this since I started doing a bunch of the other stuff. Close all tabs. Okay, so let's start with this. Oh, side note, I've got really good code coverage. Really good code coverage, which sounds impressive right until you realize I wrote exactly 2 tests. I have covered like 96% of my code base with 2 tests. When I was done laughing, I was like, good enough. We're stopping there. I wrote these tests as an example, not as a hard and fast rule. But in terms of testing your health check, I don't know if you can get it much simpler than that. I tried to make it easy. Worth noting, this is leveraging the ASP.NET Core web application factory for doing integration style tests. So this is going to spin up an in-memory instance of Kestrel that you can use to just execute HTTP client requests with. So when you do this create client, what the factory ends up doing is it stands up that in-memory instance, sets up an HTTP client with its base URL already pre-configured to point at it, and then hands that back to you. So it does all of the hard work of stand the thing up, execute your startup, execute, whatever things are in your DI, get that running, get the HTTP client, point it at the right thing, hand it back to you, and then for your test, all you have to do is invoke your endpoints. Can't make it much easier. Okay, so we are going to go here. So add controller. That sounds great. Using entity framework. Huh. I don't actually want that. Huh. Didn't realize that one was there. API controller with actions for entity framework. We're going to do this, but we're probably going to delete a bunch of it. Sure. Let's see. Model class. See, you assume I have a data context, and see, that's the problem, is you assume I have all these things. Add. There. We will go with toppings controller. Or how about ingredients? Wow. Don't laugh, I can't spell. But fortunately for me, Bing can. Oh! Did I get it right? No. Why didn't it show me the did you mean thing? There we go. Okay. Let's see. Controller. Boom. And yeah, that's not even close to what we want. So we want this to be. Yeah, we're gonna throw away a lot of this. This isn't an API controller. Did I mess something up? I feel like I did not. This is not an API controller. API controller looks like this. Okay, whatever. Okay, in this case, we are going to. Some people like to break their stuff into multiple projects. I think, in the interest of simplicity, we're going to put this here. And let's go and do manage new packages. Because I don't have EF Core yet, do I? No. Let's see. Here, we'll fix. Yeah, this will fix the. This will fix the dependabot warning too. Yeah, sure. Update all the things. Update all the things. Make it be so. Sudo make me an environment. Okay. Let's see. Entity frame. Let's see. I believe we want SQL Server. So I intentionally skip over the base one because I believe the derived one takes a dependency on it anyway. So let's go that route. Boom. I accept. Okay, and then so we're gonna just like throw away all of this because this is not even no. Because you'll note on these guys here, it doesn't need to be complicated, but we do need something to return. So. And normally I don't advocate for returning back your model from the database, but in this case, we're keeping things simple. We're gonna start there. We will make it secure and appropriately structured later. Hang on. Boom. Let's see, and then we will go class for. Context. Boom. Okay, so you become a DB context. Yeah, nope. Include. Thank you. Let's see. Public DB set. I really should have picked a type that I knew how to spell. That would have been smarter. Let's see, and then this becomes set of ingredients. So for people who may be familiar with like old EF or similar, there is a reason I am writing it this way. What is it? There is a base method called blah, 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 blah. Where is the get set call? Fine. Where are you? Thought I could have, yeah, set. What are static types cannot be used? Oh, it's because I. Okay. No, the reason for declaring the DB set this way is because I have nullable reference types turned on. There are various ways of addressing it, but if you pull the EF Core docs, you will see something like this as the preferred recommended approach for handling it. Because under the hood, this guy really should never be null. In fact, let me rephrase. This guy can't be null. And I believe this guy will either give it back or throw, ensuring that this guy will never be null. Okay, so we've got that. We've got that. We've got this. So how about public int ID public. Okay, this is creepy. I typed public space and it did exactly what I wanted, which is pretty cool. Creepy, but pretty cool. And I don't want to deal with nullable reference types here, so I'm just going to make it nullable. Done. See, problem solved. Okay, and so next we need to register our database. Or actually, we'll work backwards. We'll go here. So this guy here. So this guy is going to need a toppings context. Let's see, create and assign context. That sounds great. And we will add a null check. Sounds great. I'll put you above the constructor, please. Yeah, that's better. And then this will be yes. Would you like to write all of the code for me? Public. Can you guess the rest? No. You were correct about async. I wonder if this thing supports async enumerable. Let's not fight with it at the moment. I don't. One thing at a time. One thing at a time. We're already going to have coding stuff to clean up. Let's see. Task of enumerable of ingredient. It's kind of creepy. The IntelliCode is very amazing, and at times I question if it's psychic. So context. See, it can't protect me from myself is the problem, though. And so we want ingredients. Let's see. Await to list async. Find the extension method. Boom. Okay. So, couple comments. This is normally a horrible idea. This will take every record in your database table and return it back. This is almost never what you want. Okay, with that said, we'll move on. Not all code paths return a value. Well, that's because I didn't use the return keyword. Boom. Okay, so that gets me to there. Startup, and now we want to go services, add DB context. Let's see. Toppings context. And then and then we're gonna need to register a connection string. Is gonna be the interesting part. So let's check access control. Was I smart enough? Okay, so here's the thing. My demo contributors group, which I believe I'm a member of. I should confirm that really quick. Yes, I am in here multiple times. Excellent. Okay, so that thing has contributor level access. So if we go to the database, I should be able to hard code a connection string here and get away with this. Manage. Okay, so let's take a look here. I should be able to just log in. Login failed. I would like to not have to use... Is that what it generated for my username? That's funny. How does one set this up for AAD integration? And I wonder if this is what I ran into before. Let's see. Because I would like to be able to sign in with that account. So ideally here, continue, log in. SQL. How does one enable this? Yes, yes, I get it. Permissions. SQL managed instance. Oh, Oh, I wonder if this may be what I want to use instead. because I am not using a managed. I am not using, well, configure Azure AD off. Azure AD admin. Azure SQL managed instances. Active Directory admin. Oh. That is for a managed instance, though. Now I'm curious what all's in here. Stream analytics, replicas. This is the database. Hang on. Server. Oh. An Azure AD admin must be set. Set admin. Can I do demo contributors? Save. Does that get me in now? Is that really how hard it is? Let me in. If that's how hard it is, that's probably just need to do a little terraform work then. This is, wait. I want to be at the database. I want to go query editor. While establishing a connection was denied, deny public network access set to yes. Right. So about that. This is not something I am interested in hiding. I would like to be specifically the one that I'm going to have in dev, because I am going to spin a separate instance for dev versus prod because these are in the environment folders. I would like to just turn off that networking bit. Where is the networking stuff? Firewalls and virtual networks. Deny public access. So this is just on. Okay. And there's no way for me to turn it off. Save. If I add my IP to it, refresh. Let me in. I just went into my own database. Is it that much to ask? To connect to the server, use the private endpoint from inside your virtual network. I really would prefer to just connect straight and not stress about this. Are you really going to make me configure private endpoint just to get access to my database? Set up a private endpoint. Yes, but then you have to add yourself in. I don't want to do that. Whatever happens, you just spin database, gain access. There has got to be a alternative option in here somewhere. No, I don't want all security center. Where is the let the stuff in button? Wait. Add client IP. Save. refresh. Show me that IP still in the list. I'm sorry, what? So it's not even letting... Create new VNet. I'm wondering if the fact that this thing's not actually... Let's see if I can just put this on the same VNet as my cluster, since I'm pretty sure I've already got one. I wonder if that's part of the problem, is it's not on a network, therefore yeah, AKS VNet, AKS subnet, sure. The VNet's missing the service endpoint for it, sure. New VNet 1 SQL. If this is what I need, I'm going to go and do this in Terraform here, and we'll go from there. Because what I'd really like to do is set up my local development stuff to be able to point at my dev environment. Public access for the server is disabled. Well, of course public access has been disabled. You really are pushing the private endpoint. Okay. Instance details, SQL private endpoint. Resource type. SQL servers. That one. Yeah. Virtual network. Current subscription. Yeah, let's just go back. Let's go back. I am not interested in fighting with you. This is going to be a little obnoxious. Okay, so rather than dealing with this, I am curious if in my terraform, so close that. Let's take a look at the registry. So for Terraform stuff, the Terraform registry keeps track of all of the docs, and it is absolutely amazing. One thing to keep in mind, check what version you're on here, because you can see updates for these providers roll out, we'll say often, so 6 hours ago. So I'm going to be conscious of the fact that I'm not looking at the version that I'm using, but I kind of want to know if I see an error about a missing item, I will check it. Public network access enabled. Defaults to true. Did I turn it off? Okay, well, there's problem one. So we're gonna enable public access. Go. So that's gonna be part of the problem. We're gonna let Terraform do this. And I'm just going to cancel the prod run because it's a waste of resources. And then dev one. So the other beautiful part about Terraform is so it keeps track of a state file, which the state file is expected to represent the current state of your infrastructure that Terraform's managing. So it doesn't necessarily go out and look at Azure to know the state of, say, my SQL server. What it does is it looks at its state file and then compares that against my current Terraform scripts and says, okay, what's the deltas? That's what I need to do. So mucking with things in Portal is a great way to confuse Terraform, because even though it's going to call out, it doesn't necessarily know. Okay, so what does it show as the deltas? So what are you going to try to do here? So it's going to hopefully just modify. So 2 to change. So database is showing up with a license type on there. I might just tack that on. It's already there. Interesting. So I might have to figure out why. Wait, why did that show a delta? There is no change there. Okay, whatever. But it knows that that property is going from false to true. Excellent. I need to approve. Summary, review deployments, approve. And that should go out the door. And then hopefully that thing's gonna flip. Because we would like public access. But again, I'm not overly concerned about this thing. Oh, it actually created the VNet. So let's... Surprised it did that. We're going to turn that off. It's probably going to annoy Terraform that something else is mucking with the database. Oh, it hasn't even gotten there yet. It's still querying. We can outrun this. I think. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, Terraform, you should be fast on here. Terraform successfully initialized. Sudo update my database. And then it runs again. So currently, when I'm running these these GitHub Actions, I'm just running a Terraform plan on the first step and then a Terraform apply on the second. The problem is I'm not persisting the plan from the first one. So there is a small but tiny chance that the plan that I see here is not necessarily the plan that's going to be executed here on the Terraform apply. I've got a backlog item to address it. Basically on the Terraform plan, you output the results of that to a file, and then Terraform apply would ingest that file. The problem is I have to take that file, I have to put it somewhere, and then pull it back down. And that was more work than just writing Terraform apply. So I went with I just wrote Terraform apply. It's much simpler. Come on. Come on. Come on. Go green. How long could it possibly take? What will almost assuredly make it go faster is if I repeatedly refresh my browser. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Deny public access. Okay, so thank you. Hurry up and finish. But now I'm wondering what happens if I do this. Let me in. Suppose I should wait for it to actually finish. And then this thing, oh, it cleared out my admin. So I will, okay, so you're done. Terraform's happy, great. We will set admin. Demo. Your lack of dark mode hurts my retinas. Hang on, Kenny. Hang on, I think it's, where's the button for it? Is it? Where's the dark mode button? There's a dark mode button. Dark. Where's the button? I'm just amazed you don't notice it yourself. I do notice it going between this and this. It's pretty obvious. just had it set to light mode because I was doing some presenting, and if you present on a projector, you should use light mode. If you're doing something with a lighted screen, dark mode you can get away with. Client with IP is not allowed. Okay, so that is, but we should now be able to add that in. Okay, so add client IP, save. Okay, so refresh. Goal! Okay. So we had to muck with some stuff. I had to add some stuff. So the key parts are IP address being whitelisted, and then setting the server admin. I will not be able to do the whitelisting of the IP address from the GitHub action. That will not be possible because I won't know what the IP address is. And more importantly, my local one will not handle it. But to do set, so I'm gonna have to pull that in, or actually maybe we just do it right now. Where is, what's the, there, too many things. So it was on the server, not the database, and it is on, okay, am I blind or stupid? Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory admin. Okay, so Azure AD admin. That looks like the property I want. So, boom. So I want that. Login username, and I think what I'm gonna want is that guy up there. So data, Azure AD group, demo contributors. I don't know if I want display name or if there's a name property. Let's look this guy up too. So if I do this and just go terraform resource, boom. That one. So take me to the registry, and then more importantly, take me to the group. So let's see here. Oh boy, I really gotta turn my notifications off because now I'm getting spam from my GitHub. Okay, so display name is there. There isn't. Is there an ID? Object ID. One of display name or object ID must be specified. Well, if I knew both, I wouldn't need it. Yeah, there's object ID. Okay, so what we do here is we'll go with display name, and then this guy here will be object ID. Boom. Adding Azure AD admin. So commit, push, and then that'll go do its thing. And once again, I'm just going to kill the prod run because I know that there's nothing in the prod run that's going to matter. GitHub just can't know that. Okay, so that'll fix that. Oh, right, we were wanting to connect to this thing. So, Azure, or I'm sorry, entity framework connection string. So because my currently running user is there, I think I can get away with. That is not even close to what I want. Yeah, .NET framework, how? Okay, entity framework core. There we go. That looks more like what we want. Da-da-da. Yeah, this is more akin to what we're going for. Yeah, so we're going to do pretty much exactly this with some mild renames. So, boom, boom, use SQL Server, that guy, and then we are going to go with, how about apps database, because I think I actually called the database app or similar. Probably not a great name for it, but it'll do. Yeah, AppDB. So we'll call it apps database. That seems fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so that guy there, that guy there, that guy there. And then the thing is, we need to put this somewhere. Now, it's tempting, very tempting, to just dump your database connection string here. Let me assure you, that's a bad idea. What you do is you right-click over here and you hit Manage User Secrets. Look at this, a JSON file. Oh, that's not it. Undo. I copied the wrong thing. And then you grab this. And you put it here. I will never understand why some people think this is harder than putting it here. My opinion, they look remarkably similar. And what ends up making this work, we're going to check and see if it's even turned on. Where is it? Oh, it's picked up by default, isn't it? Oh. I bet you it is buried inside of that use defaults. Yeah, there's a lot of magic that happens here. So you'll note in the documentation here, it lists all of the things that it's going to pull configuration from, right? So it'll look at the environment variable with .NET underscore, blah, 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 blah. Call your name down to about halfway down when it says from user secrets. But you'll note it'll only use user secrets if hosting environment name is development. This is perfect. This is what you want. Local development should not check in their connection strings. They should use a secret. Yes, it means every developer is going to have to go and get that connection string set up from themselves. That's fine. It's okay. They'll live. Document it. Write a script. I don't care. Have at it. And then you put it here, and it just works. But we're going to change the name of that because we called it apps database. And more importantly, this is not the right connection string. So back to portal. Did you finish? See, a smart person would review the terraform plan. We've already established that isn't me. Okay, I really just want to see this thing work really quick. Just going to refresh and make sure that that terraform update didn't reset my SQL admins. Perfect. That apparently worked, or it's running now. We're going to make sure that stays there. But what I want is my connection strings. Where did that section go? Okay. Close you. I know I saw connection strings. Yeah. I'm sure there's somebody sitting there screaming at their computer saying, "You're a moron." It's right there in front of you. Like that. Okay, so SQL auth is not what we want. Let's see. User ID and password, not what I want. Integrated auth. This looks like what I want. Yeah, I think this looks more like what I want. So I take this connection string, I take it and I go paste. Then I look at why it shows so many extra. Oh my word. See, this is one of the dumb things. Escape. Escape. Okay. That goes like that. That goes like that. I assume. Boom. That goes like that. Let's not launch in Docker. Let's just go with Kestrel. Go. Do I have Docker running? I do have Docker running. And apparently there's an update to Docker that I need to install. Huzzah. We're gonna just do a quick check-in here. So that apply went out, and I want to confirm that my admin is still appropriately set. Huzzah! Admin is still set to my AAD group. Perfect. Okay. Add DB context was called only declares a parameterless constructor. That's because I was a moron. This means that will never be passed. Then add DB. See, it even tells you exactly the code you need to write. Of, hey, you moron, you didn't give me a constructor to invoke, and then you told me to pass configuration. Come on. Copy. Paste. Nope. Okay. DB context options. Copy context. Oh, you had it. Oh, there. Thank you. Try again. Now I still expect this thing to fail as soon as I go to try to use the context, because tables don't exist. I haven't called like created or any of that. We haven't gen migrations. None of this is gonna work. That's weather forecast. No. It launched. Let's just catch it right about there. Oh wait, that's not the controller. Let's catch it right about there. Because right about there is where I expect a boom. Execute. Yeah. And then yeah, so exception because does not support. Well, doesn't that just bite? So it acknowledged the account and then didn't work. See, the hard part is I'm running under one account locally, and it's not the account that's going to run in the cluster. And so I'm halfway tempted to just deploy into my cluster. Though the ID of my cluster is not being set with access into the SQL database anyway currently, so that's going to be the next one. You can acquire tokens in a desktop application. Integrated Windows application. Oh. How much effort do I want to put into this? I'm almost tempted. Because this isn't going to be the last time I run into this. I've got other tasks on here for Key Vault and similar, and so I'd like to find a reasonable dev flow. don't know what the most reasonable dev flow is. Like, I could have it. What would be the best option here? Because I've already got a prerequisite on like the Azure CLI. I'm just wondering if like using that to gen a token, and rather than having the full connection string in the settings, expecting the developers to just gen a token with the Azure CLI and dump that in. Maybe. Because I'm going to end up doing a bunch of work for this around making this work, and I don't know if that's reasonable. Probably is. Probably is. I'm going to have to think on that. Well, let's get this committed, because let's start with poll. Get me up on latest. Stage, unstage. Yeah. Hush, you're fine. You're fine. You pulled. We're equal. So let's see. Toppings API. Cleaned up program. Cleaned up startup. You'll note that secrets JSON doesn't show up anywhere. So, yep. So, starting work, adding in EF Core. Let's see. Need to solve best way for devs to get access to SQL in dev environment. Because we could have Terraform go through and gen something up. That would be an option, I guess. Like I could have Terraform spin a dev account. That doesn't really scale out nicely to all the developers, but maybe that's okay. Maybe that's fine enough. Don't know if I really like that idea. I mean, we could require something in Portal, since the developer's already going to need to log into the portal to be able to add their particular IP address to the firewall. But this is one of those things that I kind of have this thought of writing a script using the Azure CLI that does this. Just be done with it. Seems reasonable. Seems easy. I'm gonna put that on my backlog of items. Let's see. We'll add to the bottom. Create script to allow developer to add their IP address to firewall on SQL Server. Let's see, dev only. Poof. So set something like that up to automate this process. Effectively do exactly what this button's going to do. Seems easy enough. Doesn't seem terribly difficult to do. But the question still remains, the appropriate way to log into this server, and how should that dev experience look? I don't know the right answer. I mean, in an actual org that's already AAD integrated, the problem's solved. The only reason I'm having problems is because my local account is a Microsoft personal account, an MSA, and it's not, and at least according to that error, not supported. So I'm gonna think on that. It's tired. I'm tired. I've been going. Oh wow. Let's see. Doing math in my head. What is that? 17 hours, 18 hours. Long bloody time. I'm a little tired. More importantly, the Mountain Dew can's empty. So, yes, it is sleep time. Kenny, you should definitely be asleep. Definitely. If you have thoughts on how the auth should work or how the developer experience should be, I am all ears. And you can sleep on it too, and you can let me know tomorrow. And with that, I think I'm going to tell everybody thank you for joining. Happy coding. We'll see y'all next week.